October 14th, 2025. We are almost at the halfway point to Halloween. The most wonderful time of the year, of course. Now, tonight, I'll be completing my final runs of Silent Hill F. I considered properly going through it again, but for sake of saving some time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save scum. And I know exactly where the best point in the game, one second here, to do so is. So, without further ado, let me launch this game. Silent Hill F. Play. There we go. Now we just wait for it to load. And of course, tomorrow, I'll be streaming again, and we're going to do some Corpse Party tomorrow. And the day after that, I'm going to check out an indie game called House of Necrosis. What do you call it? Mystery dungeon. A mystery dungeon crawler. With an old school Resident Evil 1 aesthetic. Nova Pixel Auto has checked in. The NPO. You like being called NPO? I was only gonna do it once. I'm gonna save scum. These last two endings. They know exactly where I need to. So we did this one. We're gonna do this one first. I got this thing, the Agura no Hote-sama. So I had to purify the Sacred Sword, because I already had the Sacred Sword. I haven't eaten any red pills. We'll get this ending. I'll save scum, go back, run through the last bit again, and I should be able to get this one because I know where to offer the brooch now. So it should be. It will take me a 4-hour run to get to the end again. Alrighty. Continue. And Rondo, my bard, has so graciously decided to. Oh, I need my controller. So contributing the funds to reduce the cost of the Lord's Curse, the pumpkin seasonal redeem. No, I don't want to record. I don't have anything to sell. Oh, I do have things to sell. So there's some money. Here we go. Speaking of Lord's Curse, I am now pumpkin. You know, I just noticed those pumpkins on the screen they're getting kind of big. Wonder why. So I don't really, I suppose I could save for health. Actually, I could just max out health right here. If I sell. I don't really want to sell any of these, but one of these should do it. Alright, health is maxed. Okay, so this is the final gauntlet of the game. I have my samurai sword. I think that's a pregnancy monster. Let's pull the big guns. Now it takes 5 of these to kill one of these pregnancy monsters. I think it's 5. And I'm not too worried about missing out on anything, because the places where new documents normally would spawn have been replaced with just money, so I'm pretty sure I'm not going to miss much, if at all, by save scumming. Because I think the game's done giving me new documents. Pregnancy monster. Stop trying to manipulate me. I'm my own woman! Come on. And 2. And 3. Oh my god. Okay. Try it again. And Hurry! Oh, I didn't even try to get that counter, but here you go. 4. And 5. Really? Okay, I guess it's 6 with a counter. And 6. Okay. I'm gonna repair this. Okay. Keep going. But there is one more. There's a few more pregnancy monsters I have to actually fight. Pregnancy monsters are things you have to fight, generally, because they block off the pathways. Letter to Kumiko. He's really done it this time. That husband of mine is always quick to brandish the knife around when he loses his temper, but this time he went too far. He threw it at Hinako. Well, that explains why the knife was in the tree. Or the other ending. Did he even stop for a second to think what might happen if he mangled her face before she got married? I just don't know what's going through his head sometimes. Sorry, Kumiko. I know I'm always complaining to you. Oh, even Mom. Mom puts up with his shit, but Mom doesn't like... She clearly does not like why he treats her daughters. For good reason. He's a drunk. An abusive drunk. The worst kind of drunk. Okay, so the shrine up here is where the sword is purified. Is it? Wait, is it up here? Or is it the next quarter? No, it might be here. No, it's not. Okay. Let's pull our knife. Knife is strong. Okay, this way. I don't need to fight this. Flowers. Okay, this is where sword is purified. Because we did the blood, or the water puzzle last week. Okay. This is the point of no return. Well, the final 2 endings, I need to purify this, so here we go. So the evil spirit is dispensed, exorcised, I guess. Sure as shit, it's not glowing anymore. Or it doesn't have that smoke coming out of it. The sword's no longer cursed. Once the sacred sword has been purified, it will no longer provide you with any protection. Likewise, it will no longer repair itself when sheathed. Instead, you'll need to rely on toolkits to restore its durability. Okay. So it's just a regular weapon now. Okay. I gotcha. That's fine, I wasn't gonna overly rely on it anyway. Okay. Last stretch. I don't think there's any more pregnancy monsters in the forest. I think we're just back in town. Did I go the wrong way? Oh, I see. Let's run past this bullshit. I hate how it like it's fucking dog. Ew. Trying to lick my butt. It's a bad dog. No new items, no documents. Okay. No, I don't want that crap. Okay. It's a dog. Oh, he's running back to the forest. Running back to his spawn area. Okay. This way. So the last, I think it's this little area that I didn't There was no way in last time. I think that's where I have to offer something, but that's for the true ending, so I'll do that the second time around. Also, welcome, Salamandius. Good to see ya. How was your weekend? Bandage. No need that. Okay, sometimes there's a flashback here, and sometimes the fucking engine starts bugging the shit out of here. Get his son here to put that dog in its place. Yeah. He'll cast Thunderbolt on it. Oh, the engine is not bugging out. It was good. Oh, that's good. Yours. I was good. It was a long weekend here where I live, so. But did a ton of shit this weekend. It was nice. Spent a lot of time with. Was like careful as well. Therefore, deeply, rather. Okay, this is Foxboy. Just as a boy. And that's who I remembered her forever, as the fox that she's checked on and protected from the adults. And thus these three individuals' fates were intertwined. Twinked forevermore. Up here. My mouth does not want to say the words properly anymore. I think it has begun to take on a life of its own. Battery box. What's in here? Chocolate. I hate chocolate. First aid kits. Nah. Okay. The save. So. Okay, the save up there I can actually is the best one to save scum at. And there's a pregnancy monster. Alright. Let's do this. One. Two. Ew. Let's take care of these things. Easy there. Might hurt someone with that spin. Okay. There we go. Three. You gonna spin on me or you gonna scream? Alright. And four. And it's dead. Why is it fucking... There you go. Okay, not this way. Not my proudest fap, huh? God damn. But, well, I did say I'm out here to be judgmental against others, but so I'm gonna keep my my words to myself. I will say this though, Salamandius, you are a freak. One of the freakiest freaks since freaks came to Freaktown. Court. Okay, this is the perfect place to save stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna check if that little thing is what I thought. This little alleyway here. Just to be sure. Okay, yeah, this is clear now. Okay, this is where I would offer the thing. An ammo. Nice. But I don't want to do that. Because that locks in the true ending. We don't want the true ending yet, we want the bad ending. We went up here. Don't think I have anything to sell, but I'm gonna check. No, not really. Okay. Alright. The last two times I ran down to that bottom area, it was just fucking items and stuff I don't want. And there's flowers. There would be flowers. No, no. There we go. No, doggy. No! No! Help me, Hassan! Help me! I need your collar! Here we go. Okay, this is not doing okay. I don't think there's gonna be any more new cutscenes other than the ending. Okay, it's just the fishery guy again. So this house is going to be the longest part of this final gauntlet. I don't want to save just yet. If I do save, I just need to be careful not to overwrite. Open all these doors. If there's any food. Or, rather, the food I can sell. I don't know how much more upgrades I'm gonna get. We'll get this objective to get the propane tube. Back up here. Have a look-see at the kitchen. I'm also on the lookout for toolkits. Okay, so Mom, Dad, and Hinako. So Rinko, Sakugo, and Shu are upside down. This is up. This is upside down. That's upside down, so we just need Hanako's picture. There might be new documents in here too, but we shall see. Divine water. Nothing. Okay. Locked. I need the calendar. Dried carcass is nice. Should we get rid of this? There we go. No, I don't want that. Now, did this puzzle change? It did. The sword and the fox fought, battling upon a set of scales. After a long and vicious fight, the sword was defeated, and the fox reigned supreme. Taking the Blackbird's right hand, the fox showed her the scales in his other hand. Now you must choose, Blackbird. Have you made a decision? Upon one side of the scales was the fox, and on the other, nothing. Okay, that should be simple enough to figure out. We just need to look over here. I just remember something jumped at me in the last run through this room, but Higashi is always nice. I definitely want that. Let's replace. Let's not replace anything. Let's go sell this carcass. Go. More Higashi. Infinite stamina. Here we go. Calendar. She's getting murdered in here. This goes here. Here we go. Okay. Next run through. I'll try and remember where everything is in this house, so I can make the next run much faster. Faster and more efficient. Oh boy. I missed. There we go. Actually, I should use my knife. Nice, more money. Okay, so this is where picture is. Right corner. Something's here? Yep, okay. I heard it. I heard it skittering. Uh-oh. take it here. What are you hiding? Dude. Are you hiding? Is there anything in here that I need? No, I don't want that. Anything? Chocolate. Like stupid. There we go. This is almost like a... Is this a shortcut? I think the house has changed. Nothing. A useless room. What's in here? Is this the scale puzzle? Or is that the next house? Nothing in here. It's shit in here. I hate these things. They're so annoying. Okay, so there's no reason to come here, it looks like. Be sure not to open this door. This is Nako's room.
私の部屋。
見送りなんていいぜ。じゃあまた明日な、相棒。
あ、
My frames.
相棒。
お前はお前らしいままが一番だ。周りに流されるなんて相棒らしくないぜ。
そうだな。私もそうだと思ってた。
ひなこ
She's stomping on her dress.
聞こえたけど。
気のせいじゃない？全然知らない。
あ、その服どうだった？可愛かったでしょ。
言ったでしょ。私にそんな可愛いの似合うわけないって。だからさ、もうそういう服をもらってくるのやめてよね。恥ずかしいんだからさ。
そうかい？じゃあよそにあげようかね。
At least her mom's not forcing her to wear these dresses.
それがいいよ。
ひなこにとってもよく似合ってると思ったんだけど。
シュウは悪くない。
It's not Shu's fault. So.
私が望んだことなんだから。
Oh, the next calendar. Here we go. Okay. This unlocks the door, but I don't remember where the paint tube is. Or the wax with the key. Oh god. Look away, salamanders, please. Oh, this is the puzzle. Okay, here's the scale puzzle.
僕も飽きそうなところが
It's
あ
right
る。
here. No, okay. That's just the puzzle instructions. Okay, so. Let's see how heavy these things are. Damn. Here? Yeah, nice. Scales plate. Okay, so that's another plate. Now we can go to next house. Or not. What's back here? What are you hiding? Other than your babies. What's your tea? Nothing. What's this? Okay, next house. Okay, I kind of think there's nothing this way, but I'm gonna check for sure. I think there's a dog in here. Oh, it's a dog. Okay. Dog in here. Okay. Oh, I want that. Yes. What place is this? There's a dog. Excuse me. It's not my butt. Gotcha. Nice. sell this. Shrine. And sell. Some more faith.
Fear
Go.
the tube.
Oh yes, a tube. VTuber powers activate. Nothing in the room? No, okay. Down here. In this book. Or in this book. The wax.
何か入ってる。
Hinako's diary. April 6th. My big day is tomorrow. I can't back out. I'm scared. I want to run away. I don't get it. Why is it already here? Hinako's wedding that she was basically forced into to pay off her father's debts. Jesus, man. My water. Nah, useless. Okay. I can go in here. Is there anything in here though? No notes. This door. Nothing. Doll, but I don't care. Nothing. 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 Ow. Nothing. Anything in the parents' room. And nothing. No. Mom's bag of prescriptions. Prescription list. Patient. Shimizu Kinie. Take one set to reach me and then once before bed. Store in a cool and dry place. In milligrams, take 1 tablet. Take 2 tablets, 2 tablets, 1 tablet, 1 capsule, 1 pouch. Department of Internal Medicine, Prefecture University Hospital. Oh, her mom's sick. What is her mom sick with? It's a lot of meds. Might just be old people meds. Has a Discord coming. I want to force you to look at pictures of my Gundam models. The Discord is on its way. I have a lot of channels set up, but I want it to look nice. Right? So I have to clean it up a bit, but it's coming. It's coming. I swear. I promise. Before the end of the week, it should be set and ready to go, and then you can start spamming it in chat. Okay, here's propane tube. That's the sparrow door, okay. And I want to look at this thing, because I don't know what it is. Big head. The very big head. But yes, the Discord is on its way. It's almost done. It's almost ready. Get out of the door. Stay in there with him. With the big head. Yeah, I love looking at Gundam models. The stuff you guys put in Dreams is gonna be very cool. Ah! Come on, there we go. Okay, so if I remember right, I solved this. I cook the wax, get the key, come back to the sparrow door. Is this the? Yeah, this is okay. So. Too slow. Do I build? I do not. I do not build anything, but I do like seeing. There's something cathartic about watching people put stuff together so meticulously and paint them really carefully too. There's that nerd and anime shit too. Okay, that's the key. I would like to start sometime though. I would like to start doing it myself sometime. Do this here. I feel like I'm missing a disc. I just don't remember. Okay. Let's get the sparrow door open. This door? Yeah, this one. Okay, this one. Oh, there's a note here. Errand request. Hinako, I'm sorry to ask, but could you drop by Shu's house and buy that stomach medicine for me again? Also, please let his family know that I've been getting better thanks to them. Traditional medicine truly is better than all those modern drugs. And herbal remedies are far gentler on the body. Tell them that I'll pay my bill at the end of the month, Mom. Stomach medicine. So these games don't typically show you things on accident. I'm going to assume her mom is more sick than she puts on. You should get an entry game so you like it. It was only 10 or 12 bucks. That's the other thing too, is cost. Wait, not necessarily for like Gundam and shit like that, but like we'll say like the Warhammer stuff too can get pretty costly pretty fast. I'd also like to get like a setup in general, like a dedicated desk for this kind of stuff.
お前本当に隠し事はしてないんだろうな。
全然知らない。本当に覚えてもなかった。
お父さん、いいじゃありませんか。何の文句があるんです？ひなこ、あんたはどう思ったの？
わかんないよ。全然わかんない。
そうよね。無理もないよ。心を落ち着けてじーっと考えてごらん。心の中のもう一人の自分にじっくりと相談するの。
私嫌だよ。
え？
嫌だ嫌だ嫌だ絶対嫌だ。
どうしたのひなこ？
だって私お母さんのこと嫌いなんだもん。私お母さんのこと嫌い。お母さんみたいになりたくない。
Freaking the fuck out. Of course, her mother puts up with her dad's shit, and this is her only exposure really to marriage, along with her sister leaving. Warhammer's too rich for my blood, so I'm not good at ping, so Gunpla is much better fit for me. Yeah, I think I would start with Gunpla. Maybe even just stick with it too, because I don't really have an interest in playing the Warhammer tabletop, and I kind of feel like if I got into Warhammer, I'd want to end up like playing the actual game, not just have the figures, you know, get some use of them. Well, I say use, but actually make them play in the actual game and shit. Oh, this is new. What was that? I don't know what that was. Okay. This is the wrong way. Something has changed, and not for the better. Come on. Here we go. Gotcha. Cord, okay. Just in case, I'm not gonna save. This is my save scum save, so I'm not gonna save there. Another crest. And last one is from the picture puzzle. Is there a fucking dog in here? Here we go. Excellent. And final plate. Now, let me take a gander at this. So when the fox fought battling upon a set of scales, after a long and vicious fight, the sword was defeated and the fox reigned supreme. Taking the Blackbird's right hand, the fox showed the scales in his other hand. Now you must choose, Blackbird. Have you made a decision? Upon one side, the scales of the fox, and on the other, nothing. Okay, so we'll go with scales. Fox. Blackbird. No. What? The nothing. Is that not correct? I hear the dog. Ah! Oh. Come on, doggy. Gotcha. Bad dog. One more try. Sword and the fox fought battling upon a set of skills. Longest fight, swords defeated. The fox reigns supreme. Taking the bird's right hand, fox showed his skills in his other hand. Now you must choose Blackbeard. Have you made a decision? Pommel side skills of the fox, neither nothing. It's on the other side. This is nothing. This is the sky. Bird and sword. Fox. White bird. Okay, so these are the right sides of the coins, and I just need to get them in the right sides. Fox shares skills in his other hand. They must choose Blackbeard. You made a decision on the side skills of the fox, neither nothing. There we go. I basically brute forced that one. Logic puzzles. Okay. Pine Tree Emblem.
ひなこ、しゅうくんから電話だよ。
今いないって言って。
いるって言っちゃったよ。
じゃ
What
あ
are these
買い
packages?
物に行ってるとか言っといてよ。
はいはい。
What I'd like to do
わかった
too,
よ。
and I've heavily considered doing this, is I'd like to get a nice what's she doing? Oh, this is where I leave. Okay. But she bugged out for a second. We start the cutscene. I'd like to get a nice
私が見えてるよね。
wooden, I don't know what you'd call it, like a board, I guess, for my desk. And I'd also like
私の声ま
to
で聞こえるようになったんだ。
practice some language lessons. There's talk of
ここに
going
立ってないで入ったら
to on a trip to
ちょうど話がしたかった
Japan
ところだから
sometime soon. I find it prudent to get a little familiar with the language.
お願い。死んで。って言ったら、あなたは死んでくれる？
This one's already deranged.
私に死んでほしいの？清水ひな子から生まれ変わることができるかもしれない。私以外のものになりたいってこと？どうして私として生きていたくないの？幸せなこと、
But that would the language study would be something that I would like stream.
大切なこと、
Writing and going over
嫌なこと、
the hiragana
全
and
部
kanji.
たくさん考えて絶望したから。ううん、もっと前向きな言い方をしよう。ひなのままいつまでも暮らせるわけがない。巣の中でひなのまま親鳥に食べさせてもらって、大好きなお友達といつまでも遊べる日々が永遠に続くわけがない。寒い冬が訪れれば親鳥たちは巣を捨てて旅立つ。大好きなお友達だって飛び方を覚えた順に旅立っていく。後には誰も残らない。周りの巣はみんな空っぽに。
That's the dying part.
親鳥たちも友達も
It's gonna grow up sooner or
み
later.
んな旅立っていってしまった。
This Tanaka is being kind of cruel though. That'd be
残
cool.
ったのは
Yeah, I would like
自分
to
だけ。やめて
just to branch out, right? Not do
今
just
ある
entirely
幸せと
gaming. The other thing I would like to try eventually as well is
すべて足し算引き算して私なりに考えたの。やめて、嫌なの、怖いの、恐ろしいの。
going over
わかるよ。
music
やだよ
making
ね、怖いよね。
as well on stream.
でも一番怖いのはこのまま冬が。そんなの分かってる。分からない、分かりたくない、考えたくない。
She's scared. She's scared.
それでいいの。 ていることが選択でいいの？それがあんたの選択なら、私はあんたに死んでもらう容赦しないからね。嫌ならあんたが生きたいっていう覚悟を見せてよ。決意を見せて。逃げるのではなく、耳を塞ぐのではなく、しっかり私を殺して、あんたが生き残って、あんたこそ私を殺して私より幸せになれるっていう絶対の約束ができるの？怖いんでしょ本当は。怖いよ。私だってすごく怖い。でも今優しい人だっていつか変わるかもしれない。お父さんでさえ昔は笑ってたって言うんだよ。でも恐怖に怯えることは選択じゃない。目を開けろ。考えるのをやめるな。自分の幸せを誰かに決めさせるんじゃない。
What actresses? I'm gonna have to look up who played Tanako.
清水ひな子。
See if she did any other shit too. What kind of music do you make?
ひなだが。
I make a varied amount of stuff. You check out my about, you'll see Rondo's music box. I started publishing some of the stuff that everything I make right now is on my, I'll use in my channel in some way or another. And then here comes the face. The face is gone. The loss of identity. I've also made the song that Doom Guide uses in his starting and ending in BRB, the organ music. In the key. Okay, great. Most of it's just gonna be whatever I'm feeling inspired by at any given time. I really take to my programs. Oh shit, I missed that. What is that? What did that say? Is that a document? When I look upon the moon, I cannot help but be reminded of your graceful form. Oh, how blessed I would be if we were gazing at the same moon right now. Awaiting your answer is nothing short of pure bliss. Bundle of letters that Kodayuki gave me. It smells of sandalwood. Ah, of course, sandalwood. That was mentioned in another document as being part of the love spell stuff. He just wants to fucking drug the shit out of Hinako. What the fuck, man? Yeah, the music I use in my intro and outro for this month, I made myself. Just based on a Halloween ambience, I guess is the best way to put it. I also made another one I use for when I stream horror games. Oh shit. I have a more, I don't know what you would call it, I guess normal one. that I use for everything else. I typically like to, I like to make chiptune stuff as well. Stuff that it sounds like you would find on like an NES or a Super Nintendo. Or an Atari or whatever the fuck, stuff like that as well. I really like chiptune stuff. But I also try and convert those same chiptune songs to something using more contemporary instruments. All using MIDIs. I use MIDIs to make music. Let's put this in. Scratch my back. Okay, it's gonna start shitting items on me. I'm mostly looking for money. State. Comb for money. Here we go. This one. Go. Okay. This is the mom and dad fight, right? Let me repair this. Because this can take care of mom really fast. This is not new.
お父さん、お母さん。
She didn't fucking step forward. Careful. Oh shit. Oh god damn. Another genre I would love to get into. Oh, is Dungeon Sim. I was actually shown it by Doom Guy, I think last month. Oh god damn it. I made a song called Mystic Dungeon that I like to I started using on my channel. We'll make its return in November. Jesus Christ, man. Okay. Okay. Animation cancel. 4. Okay. Cancel. Oh shit, I'm out of stamina. Where's my Higashi? Dungeon Sim is like... I wish I knew it existed earlier. It's basically the same idea. The kind of music you hear on old game systems. Now people make it fun. Used to know a guy who made songs, he used like old Game Boy songs and stuff, and he performed live with some weird game boy. So, oh, that sounds sick. Oh, I fucking love that. I have a... What the fuck? I'm floating. He bugged me out. Okay, no, I'm back on the ground. I have an extensive background in music ever since I was a child. But I never really started like creatively making stuff until since I started streaming. Because I was getting sick of like looking at VODs and shit and like, oh, you got flagged for this and that. It's like, god damn, man. And some of these, the programs that Twitch tells you to use, they're supposed to be, you're not supposed to get copyright strike for that shit, right? Like Twitch themselves says use these. Some of them you still do. Some of the songs, you do in fact get copyright struck on Twitch. It's like, okay, it's almost a fucking thing. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna make my own. Fuck this. I'm sick of it. Didn't happen all the time. So, bitch, I'll just make my own stuff. It belongs to me. And if it ever gets struck, I know something sus because I didn't strike it. You're dead, you. Ah, you big bastard. Oh my goodness, I hate this. I pushed it up here. That's nice. There we go. I don't care because I don't want to lose this axe. God damn. Ah, the dead is so funny. There we go. That's it, him.
これを飲みなさい。
This
少し
is not
楽に。
new. Copyright system's so lame. It really is, man. Who's gonna hear a song and stream say themselves? I've heard it now. I'll never need to hear it again. Sounds like free advertising. That's what I'm saying, man. It just fucking... It's more annoying that I know why it exists, right? But at the same time, it's... In practice, it's more fucking annoying than anything. Now, you get the argument can be made that it's made to help artists, which is true. But at the same time, generally speaking, it's the publishers, not the artists, the artist publishers that hold the reins of that kind of stuff, and then they start fucking get annoying with it. It's like, okay, well done. Okay, let's just save some. So this one. Did I get money? I did not. Okay. I don't recall recall, is there a fight in this part? Ah, yes, the fox. That's right. Okay. What's it say this time? The black bird is in a cage at last. The satisfied fox spreads his fan. The white bird remains at a daze. All had been swept away as she slept. Alright, so that's the puzzle. Once I make a sizable amount of stuff on my SoundCloud, I'm going to I'll go ahead and get its pro account or whatever the fuck it is. That shit. Do not fear, I was once you. Okay, let's go and murder everything in here. Ooh, there we go, okay. It's gonna scream. It's not gonna scream, what the fuck? Okay. Did it run away? Okay. Siphon. It's not like there's money to be made in like fucking plays. I mean there's some, right, but like nothing someone could like make a living off of. I've ever seen that, I think it was like Snoop Dogg or some shit. He was on like a podcast. He was talking about how much money he made off of Spotify. And for like 30 million clicks on one of his songs, he got like fucking $2,000. It's like holy shit. It's like that's it? There's a Snoop Dogg we're talking about, right? So $2,000 is like not even a drop in the bucket for him, so. Okay, is there any new documents near? Thing, Higashi's nice. There's no new documents, I can just... I also need the, treasure to keep going, I think. The coin for the puzzle. That's where I'm supposed to go. Oh, here it is. Oh, Black Sparrow crest. Nothing in here. Genomics. His socks probably cost $2,000, right? I'll put this here for now. I can't go that way. I hate when the doors change. Okay. Where the fox's statues would be. There's no tell, so let's just go to here. Now, what I am worried about too, and this is another problem with the copyright stuff, is that people who don't own said song will try and flag it as theirs. That's the other thing that really fucking sucks. It'll be because of some ridiculous shit, like they sampled the song in one of theirs, and then they end up flagging the actual song. It's like, that's not... You're doing this wrong, man. You just hurt all of us. I think it's where the foxes are looking. Be this one. Or is it the one where they're not looking? It changes every fucking time. Okay, there's no foxes looking at this door, so I'm gonna go through this one. Okay, I got the right one. Is this guy's what other fights he had to do? It's gonna scratch your belly. that would be a nightmare for me. I'm gonna be really pissed if someone took a song off my SoundCloud and then like fucking started copyright striking it when I'm using it. It's like, come on, man. The good news is, I always make sure my songs are marked, and I have further proof that they are mine. There we go. Oh, I have no sanity. Which one gives sanity? Divine water? It is divine water, okay. Let's replace this. There we go. Okay, I don't know. One of these has a room with a doll in it. I think it's this one. I need to kill the doll. There it is. There we go. Bandage. Okay, I think that was all the secret walls. Yeah, okay. I can do this. Second coin.
これは服で怯えた
Okay, let's put this here for now. Okay, last door. I don't get this one wrong. Okay, this fox should tell me where I need to go. It's like this one. Scroll of Welcome. Celebrate, once and for all. May you live happily ever after. May we all thrive for eternity.
永遠の幸あれ
I can already see why this is the bad
永遠
ending.
の栄あれ
Oh no. It's a nightmare. There's a pregnancy monster here. Alright, Tubbums. Let's do this. Do not call it pregnant Tubbums. It's a very bad idea. Nope. No. Got missed. Oh no, I got him. There we go. Better at the combat. Oh, that knocks. I didn't realize. Oh, it killed even. Okay, is that it? Or is there another? No, that's it. Okay. Okay, this is not new. That's right, there's no map in
あ
here.
なた様のお印ですね
I also made a a synthwave version of one of the main songs I used too. That'd be another thing I'd like to start doing more too, is making synthwave. It was a lot of fun making that song. Okay, so I have all three. So let me collect them all again. And this one. Okay, so the blackbird is in the cage at last. The satisfied fox spreads his fan. The white bird remains in a daze. All had been swept away as she slept. Okay, so does anyone have a fan? The only fox with a fan. An only fan, if you will. Here we go. That's a terrible joke. The blackbird is in the cage at last. The satisfied fox spreads his fan. Synthwave this one. It's fun to listen to. It's fun to make too. The white bird remains in a daze. All have been slept away as she slept. Okay. My little brain tells me it's the one in the carriage is sleeping. Oh, maybe it's this one though. Well, the monk is more like contemplating. We'll try the one in here. Oh, is that a cage? I don't know what that is. A mirror? Put it there. The blackbird is in the cage at last. Satisfied fox spreads his fan. White bird remains in a daze. All have been slept away as she slept. Cage, huh? Perhaps the one that's in the carriage is blackbird. Here. All had been swept away. Maybe they're all together here. Maybe not. These might be switched. No, I want this one. There we go. No, okay. This might be the white bird here. Let's remove these. This might be the white bird. Assuming that fox is sleeping. Should I be like here? No, okay. Next one. There we go. Easy, easy. Interesting that the puzzles have changed. The fox is the victor. As opposed to the other endings. This is not new. Not new. Okay, this is the second last comment, I think. Go down, turn into fog and go and run all the way back. Up this hill.
お前は許さない絶対に絶対に
See that dog trying to attack me. Okay, this I have to kill. Gotcha. Easy, easy, easy. 2. Grab this. And 4. One more should do. And 5. Nice.
邪魔するやつはみんな死ね
Need Kutsu here. Or not Kutsu, Higashi. Here we go. That's going over, of course. I always get stabbed by this fucking doll. Okay. There we go. Get the fuck off me. I'm trying to speedrun.
何もかもめちゃくちゃだ
Playthrough is a mess. No dog.
返して私の全てを返してよ
There's the fog monster. If I get too close, she stuns me. I'm not gonna do that. Oh, I can replace this though. I hate these flowers. Okay, one more pregnancy monster. We gotta run it back. 1. 2. 3. Yes, just and the 5. Alright. Sure. Let's turn it to the fog monster.
嫌だもう嫌私の町
Which way is it?
返して
No, this is the wrong way. This way.
私の大切なも
My
のを
way.
すべて
What's that? Kitchen knife. Oh. Ah, let's replace the bat.
なら
Yokon.
私自身も奪うがいい
Shimizunako. Anti-comb is money. Actually, I have a lot of money. Oh, there is another pregnancy monster. I can't run past this one. Yeah, okay. It's gonna be a little fucking annoying, but there we go. One! Give up. There's a lot of monsters. Okay. Let's do it. Come on. Oh, that's weird.
私もお前たちのすべてをぶっ壊してやる
One. Two. Oh my god. And 3. Alright, coming. 4. Oh, he's already dead. Nice. Okay, this way. That should be the end of this gauntlet. Then we gotta run back. They still have the fox arm. Okay, here it is. Okay, this is not new. We turn into fox arm, Hinako. This is not new either.
あらあら本当に綺麗な当家にはふさわしくない
ようこそどうか心安らかな日々を
Not new, okay. Not new. And now we run it back.
街が綺麗
Don't believe the foxes. I can't just keep running this way, can I? Yeah, okay, there's a fucking invisible wall. Train these, I do have to train them. There we go. Okay. About invisible wall.
私の邪魔
There we go.
をしないで
I think there's 2 more fights I have to do. It's not
そう
changed.
よこれは私の選択
You're being manipulated. Come back to your senses. Give me a attack. Six, seven, 8. Gotcha. One more. Oh, come on.
私は
There we go.
家に帰る。
There's some more, right? Yeah, there's some more.
世界が私を祝福してる。両親にも会いに行こう。
I don't want to fight those things. I don't have to. Yokon. And I'm not even gonna bother saving. Last sight before they get to the house. No coming back. Missed both, really. Of course, oh, you grabbed here. Okay. Okay, I think Big Boy comes here at this point. Or is it the next wave? Screamer? Nah, it's a dog. Four, 5, 6, 7, 8. I wonder how much damage that actually does if it just kills him. Okay, there's a big boy, right? Yeah, there it is. The big daddy. Come on, daddy.
私はこれ以上怒らせるな。もうすぐ我が家。
Did I? Oh no, this is it. Okay. Right past the house. Here we are. Over here, there's one more gauntlet. And that will be the bad end. No changes. No changes. I'm going to repair this, but I'm not going to use it too much. Stick with my sickles.
"私はどこへ誘われてるの?"
Okay.
今まで助けてくれてありがとう。
Not super interesting, these weapons. I have all the best ones. Okay, first fight. Come on.
通さないつもりか。上等だ。
Next. Kill these eggs. Come here. Skippers. Rod damage carries over. Oh, you trying to lick my ankles? That's a bad dog. I'm gonna switch my zipper. There we go. Your repair kits. Yes, excellent. Okay, I believe this is, and I'm mostly looking for, I can sell, first off. Mostly want toolkits. Some money. Nice, nice. I'm save scumming, so I'm not gonna be able to get the Omamori slot. That's fine. Bandage, no. Toolkits. No toolkits. What does the gotcha give me? Owl. Greatly decreased sanity consumption while using focus. Oh, that's actually not bad. There we go. I don't think there's a fight here. Nah, it's just the gate. Okay. For Sakako, met her untimely demise. Okay. Bandage, kitchen knife, perfect. First aid. I'm not really gonna need these, but pull this out. This is not new. And the bride fight. Curious if you fight the fox in this setting. This is a new cutscene, it says. Imagine the dialogue's different. Specifically because of the ending.
まだ生き残っていようとは。
私は認めない。こんなの認めない。
心を静めて消え去りなさい。あなたの存在はもはやひな子を苦しめるだけ。
ひな子、私、清水ひな子は私。いいえ、清水ひな子はもう存在しません。帰りなさい。ここはあなたがいてよい場所ではありません。このような日に。
Oh, she actually gives in. Holy, okay. Left her weapon.
ひな子、今払ってあげるから少し待ちなさい。
The doll.
お前は一体。
Oh, it looked. So is it going to explain the doll then? I kind of got the feeling the doll was Hinako trying to, well, save herself, I suppose. But it seems to have eliminated Junko. She's still smashed at the table. Get fucked table. Here goes the fog again and the right shoulder.
違うよ。咲子も凛子も柊も奪い、お父さんもお母さんも会えないわけじゃない。子供の頃のようにいつでも会えるわけじゃないだけ。黙れ化け物め、私を返せ、奪った全てを返せ。ごめんね私。でもあんたの気持ちは全て私が受け止めてあげるから。There it is. Okay, that's from the puzzle that I did last time. It's a red liquid that's supposed to be able to cure anything. Oh, that's new. Oh.
ひなこ、この薬を飲みなさい。
The Agora no Hote Sama, whatever it's called. What the fuck is that?
君はあのようなものに疲れて
This makes so fun.
けなげに耐えていたのか。俺、よくもひなこに。
死ね
ひなこ、もう大丈夫だ。
Uh-oh. Is that Shu? Shu has the smoke on him. Oh. There's something wrong with that Shu.
どけ！どうしてそいつをかばう！お前を誰より守ると誓う俺よりどうして信じられるんだ！
Oh, Shu's losing it.
シュウと一緒に
I guess none of these kids are
昔のままの姿でず
comfortable with growing up.
っといたかった。でも私もシュウも
Oh, she's breaking his heart.
いつまでも同じではいられないんだ。
それは分かってる！でもどうしてそいつなんだ？どうしてだ？
シュウは
She's been getting letters from Fox
い
Mass
つまで
for a
も今
while
のま
now,
まで
though.
いようと言ってくれる。 けど琴雪さんは私と共に未来へ歩もうと言ってくれる。どちらも不安だった。どちらにも希望を感じた。もし本当にこの身を二つに引き裂くことができたなら、私は今だってその半分をお前の相棒として残していきたい気持ちでいるんだ。
It's just not easy for any of them.
シュー
Oh, shoot.
終われば男としてこのままにはできない。
いえ、私に話させてください。
Imagine getting friend zoned this hard. Oh, he's feeling it. After all the shit they went through, and this is how he gets friend zoned.
シュー、
俺はダメな男だ。笑って祝福するつもりでいたんだ。でもできなかった。それどころか俺は
The pills.
お前に薬と偽って
Oh, is he admitting it? He's drugging her and shit? He knows what's going on.
それは
内なる自分と対話できる
Let you
薬
reflect within yourself.
だが体質によっては非常に危険な薬だ。
どうしてそんなものを私に。
結婚を断って欲しかった。一番思ってるのは誰か気づいて欲しかった。俺は何言ってんだ。相棒の大切な日を
He
祝
did
福できなく
fucking
て
knew. Okay.
何が相棒ってんだくそ。
At least he admits it. Oh, he's got fog coming off him too. He's got a fog monster as well. Uh-oh.
頼む
He's gonna...
幻滅してくれ。
He's freaking out. He's losing it.
幻滅などするもんか。今度は私に相棒に幻滅させようとするのか。いい加減にしろ。よくも今日を私たちをめちゃくちゃにしてくれたな。
What the fuck is that? Oh, he's got the fucking legendary sword. Oh. He's covered in faces.
俺なんかほっといて逃げろ。
Tree. It's the other god. Okay.
戦うぞ相棒。
The
そのおかしな
Sukumagami
十字野郎を
alien scum will go down without a fight.
私たちでぶっ飛ばそう。
She still cares, so she just... The battle of gods then. Alright, bitch. He's covered in weapons. He looks so fucking cool. I hate that. Oh! Sukumogami, okay, yeah, he is the old god. Oh! The god before the fox cult.
起きて。
I don't know his moveset. There's no bride fight.
覚えてるか小
あ、
1の頃
頑張
掃除の時だ。
宇宙戦争後途中で二人とも掃除なんかを忘れてたことは
Try like
先生に見つかって
water?
まとめて怒られたな。
Whoa.
そうやった懐かしい話だ
レーザーガン覚えてるか？
Laser gun.
引き金を引くと音と光が出るやつだ。
He is beating my fucking ass. Okay.
盆踊りの時に
I can't use this much work on endings most people won't see. That's true, yeah. A lot of people are just gonna play,
私が借りてた
they're gonna see the bad ending where she goes crazy and kills everyone, and then they're not gonna touch it
責め
again.
ないでくれたな。本当にありがとう。
あの時の申し訳なさそうな顔を見たら誰が責められるかってんだ
We're not gonna try and the other thing too is that on subsequent playthroughs, they're gonna try and play it. You know, normally they're gonna try and fight everything, and that's going to add a lot of time to play. I'm a little familiar with this genre, so I know you don't have to fight everything, you just run past a lot of shit. Let's pop up. And let's give him one more.
これ以上怒らせるな。
Shit. Oh my goodness. Ooh, there we go. Okay, I can dodge those. He's got one of those attacks on. Okay. Okay. Almost there. Okay, I don't have to dodge this. I need to heal. I think I did. Elden Hill again. This is like the fucking Elden Beast stuff. Where's my mount? Where's Torrent, man? Kanako needs a Torrent.
私は女はこうあるべきっていう決めつけが嫌いだっただけで、
Pop out again.
だからって女に生まれたことまでも憎んだことはなかった。
俺は勘違いしてるお前を追い詰めていたのかお前の気持ちは目を見りゃ分かるでも俺にはなぜ傷ついていたのか分からなかった
違う、シュウが気づかせてくれたんだ。私はお前のおかげでやっと生まれ変わることができた。だから清水美奈子はいつまでもお前と共にある。
It's gonna be fine. Fourth? Yes.
みなぎる。
What is that? What? Whoa. Okay, alright. Oh, at least I take that. He's a lot tougher than the other bosses, that's for sure. The Fox boss wasn't too hard. The Bride was okay as well. This thing is It's got a lot of HP. It feels like a boss fight. Actually, I'm playing on story mode, by the way, so everything's gonna be weaker and have less HP.
やめてくれ。
Hi. With one. He's almost dead, looks like. Let's see what this shit coming up represents. There we go. One more. Gotcha. This is the sus part. Can I run from this? I actually don't. Oh, I dodged it. Doesn't matter. Come here. Gotcha. Give him another one. Just spam this. Come here. And another one. There we go. Ending it. I just realized she's got like clockwork arms.
その言葉で俺は完成したぜ。
He's almost like a machine. An automaton.
シュウありがとう。
Oh, the big uppercut. Straight to the god's jaw. I guess he's a god of tools. It makes sense that he'd be like a robot, sort of. Or a god of old tools that nobody uses anymore. Represented by the divine tree. Oh shit. The boy's gonna face off.
元幸さん
Oh,
俺の相棒あんたにしばらく預けるぜ。
しばらくのつもりはないのだろう。
俺のひな子を不幸にしたら100発殴ってやるからな。
ひな子は私のものだ。もはや君のものではないね。
いや俺の相棒なんだから俺のだ。貸してるだけだ。
I'm just lending her to. I was gonna. I was about to say these two just see her as like a thing to pass around.
彼女のことを理解し大切にしようと思っている二人だ。良い友人になると思うのだが。
Rose? Nah. Fist bump? I want to see the fox god do a fist bump. Ah, so she still becomes the bride, okay. I guess it makes sense. Oh, he actually takes his mask off here, okay. Let me see his face.
狐の嫁入りだ。
The Squidward meme. Oh no, he's hot. What a nightmare 3-way that would be. Look at Hako. Okay, this does change. The ending song changes for each ending, which is cool. This sounds more like a traditional song. It's Hinako embracing a traditional fate, I suppose. She is simply a wife. Okay, Is there a scene with this? There is, okay. I'm just lending you to it. Lending you to it.
そろそろ中に入ろう。肩を冷やす。
Is she still the bride?
はい。
The bride monster? Or is she normal now? No, she's normal now. She just has the bridal dress.
やだやだやだやだ
Oh no.
やだやだやだやだやだやだやだやだ怖い怖い怖いやだ怖い怖い怖いやだ怖い怖い怖い怖い怖いお母さんになりたくないお母さんみたいになりたくない
That was fucking awesome. I like that. that was a horror ending through and through. That was really cool. I like that. That is horror. Stained in red sunset hues lies. Even the children's song has changed. The hills steep deep in silence. Has it changed or is this the same? Now away from the birdcage. Shrouded in the fog. So even married to a very rich and powerful man, she still has her doubts. She does not like the fate she got. That is why it's the bad ending, I suppose. So this is my save scum save. So we're gonna save here. Ah, and the menu changed too. Now it's the Spirit Gate, overcome by the Kutsus. What is that called? Fox's wedding. Dolls are happiest when they are loved. Okay. I didn't even realize there was like a subtext drawn at the bottom of the pit of self-doubt. Dolls are happiest when they are loved. The hell of your own choosing, nothing else matters now. That was resisting the fox, and you leave a shoe. First, Hinako leaves a shoe at the end of this one. This is the joke anyway, so we're going to load my save scum. So I do not have to go through everything all over again. Bad ending is getting married to a rich guy. At least this is about the writer of the game. Seems to hate traditional life. He's definitely got some opinions, doesn't he? Okay, so if I run back down here, I'm supposed to offer the birch to the Jesus statue, and I found it. Sickle. Emma, okay. This locks in the true ending here. Along with purifying the sword, which I did earlier. Turn to stone. Okay, as of now, the true ending has been locked in. Let's see how Hinako's tale actually ends. If she finds the, I suppose, freedom and peace for herself that she seeks, but given the time, She's got a lot to overcome. 1960s. Okay. Hey, no way, Abby. Also, thanks for the curse. I'll do this a little more spooky style. I will embrace my traditional role as a pumpkin-headed knight. Let's get at it. Skip this. I'm not gonna answer the phone because it's the fish guy. It's always the fish guy. Okay. This should be faster now. Need to look at this. Pipe. Or tube. And here. Pictures. It's just Hinako, huh? Okay. It's just about you, Hinako. Okay, I don't think I need to go in here. There's just items. Nothing, okay. So down the shoe hallway. This has been purified. Escape the door. Look at this. Okay, grab calendar.
そこにいるの？なんでここに？この日付。何か大事な日だった気
This
が。
unlocks the door. I should have had to look at the puzzle, but I'll worry about that later. I want the coins.
私のうち
The tokens.
どうなってるの？
In here. So here I can go right first, if I remember correctly. Because this is where the photo is. He just kind of slumped over like, oh. Stupid dog. Okay, picture.
写真。なんか見たことある気がする。
Actually, has some stuff I can sell, I think, right?
後で。
I do, okay. Sell. Not that the money matters much now. Okay, let's check Hinako's room.
私の
I think I have to interact
私
with...
はそういうものだと思って生きてきたから。だからお見合いの話が来た時も今度は私の番なんだってそう思ったよ。
Oh, it's Junko, okay. We see her
お姉
face.
ちゃんはどう
No,
し
she's
て知
got a
らない
mask
人
on
と
too.
結婚できたの？
親同士で話して仲人さんが入ってその上で私にふさわしい方と分かって紹介されたんだもの。出会うのは初めてでもきっと仲良くなれるって確信があったわ。恋愛結婚も素敵だと思うけれど恋は盲目。籍を入れた後に相手の嫌な面に気づいても遅いのよ。
私にはお姉ちゃんたちの言うことがよくわからないよ。
ひな子だって幸せな結婚をして幸せな人生を歩みたいでしょ。
そこが違うの。そこが多分私とお姉ちゃんの私と世界の一番の違いなの。
違いって？
私幸せになることが絶対に大切とは思ってないの。もちろん幸せにはなりたいよ。でもそれよりも大事なことがあるの。
それは何？
自分で選択したかどうか。私はね、幸せにしてもらいたいんじゃない。自分で選んで幸せになりたいの。たとえ幸せになれなかったとしても自分で選んだ結果はとても尊くて私には価値があるように思えるの。みんなが女の幸せと呼ぶもの、頼もしい旦那様と大勢の子供たち、そういうものと生涯無縁になるとしても構わない。私には幸せになれるかどうかよりも 自分で運命を選べたかどうかが大事なの。
私には綺麗事に聞こえるけれどね。でもひな子の言うことが間違ってるとも思えない。あと100年、いやひょっとしたらもう少し早いかも。どんな結果だろうと自分で選んだ結果ならそれが幸せだとそうと言える時代がきっと訪れると思うわ。お姉ちゃんはその世界には行けないけれど、ひな子は行けるといいね。
どんな結果だろうとも自分で結果を選べることが幸せ。自分で選べなかった結果は幸せじゃないんだ。誰にも操らせない。私の選択は。
She has this almighty need for control in her own life. Project from art class, my future self, Shimizu Hinako. Canvas is a blank, but even now, imagining the countless possibilities of what I could fill all this blank space with makes me excited. Even after Junko got married and embraced her life as a wife, traditional wife, she still has got some wise takes for Hinako. But I suppose for Hinako, her actions speak louder than her actual words. It's down. Hinako's very heavy on this side. Hinako needs to lose some weight. There we go. Everybody's against Hinako for this puzzle. Okay. Here we go. Plate. Just hurt herself. And here's a waste of time. Oh, wait. Here we go. No. Third request. Okay, no, this is about the mom's sickness. I'm assuming mom's sickness is another reason why the dad's in debt. So much debt. It's failed business. Mom's got something making her sick. I think this was a waste of time if I remember. If there's something in here that I need. Ah, this is just the other way. Okay, I see. Excuse me, doggy. Nothing. What's that? Divide bar. That'll come in handy against the last boss. The sparrow door moved. Okay. Sparrow door is actually easy to get to. So what's back here then? This will be the spare door normally is. So what's in here? Flashback? The kitchen moved too. Okay, I got the propane too. Is this where the... Okay, I want to see the big head. Has it changed to the true ending? It is not. It is still here. Overbearing and pissed off. Okay, let's solve some puzzles. So. Out of my way. Hook us up a key. Oh wait, the key is not in here. Sorry. Did I miss the key? Uh-oh. I could solve this at least. Hinako, upside down. Caesar upside down. There we go. There we go. Okay. Uh-oh. You have alerted the horde. Now we can open this. We cannot open this. I think I missed something. Black and white fought, battling upon a set of skills. Yet neither wanted for the skills, for what they desired was simply a quiet, grey place where they could belong together. Whether we flee or spread our wings and fly is our decision alone. One to make, only once we are ready. They had no use for those who towered from the heavens, imposing their will on others. I did not grab the key from her room. That's my issue. Okay. It's not this one, right? No, okay. We got that. This is the room I missed again. Oh, I might be able to grab it. Nice. Nice. Excuse me, Prego. Okay, and Sparrow Door's there, but can't open it. Now we cook up the key. Legend key, nice. Okay, was this house in the next one? I think it's this one. Oh, there's so many of them. I might have to... Is it this one? It's not this one. Okay. I have pissed off everything in this fucking house. Uh-oh. No, not the stamina, not the stamina! He spanked me. He's still spanking me. There we go. Okay. It's this part of the house. So just around this corner is the Sparrow Door. Or Fletching Door, whatever you want to call it. Here we go. Is there a flashback in here? Oh, it's the mom.
ちょっとおいでなさい。お母さん、ひな子の誤解を解いておきたいの。
誤解って？
ひな子はお母さんのこと、お父さんにいつもいじめられてるって思ってる？
そんなこと。
確かにお父さんはちょいと短気な人だけど、娘の前ではいい格好がしたいだけの照れ屋な人なんだよ。
Acting strong.
あんなに怒鳴ったり物を投げつけたりしてきたのに。
お父さんはね、ずっと夢があったの。自分と友達で小さなお店を持ちたいって。
夢？
そう。お父さんには仲のいいお友達がいてね、船に乗っていた頃からかな、 弟みたいに可愛いっていつも言ってた。でもね、何かあったんだろうね。急にお父さんが貯めてたお
Holy
金全
shit,
部持っ
he
て
got swindled?
逃げちゃった。きっとどうしようもない理由があったんだろうね。悪い人には見えなかったから。お父さん
Can't trust shit these
それ
days.
ですごく傷ついてね、荒れてた時期があったの。落ち着くと
I think Steve saw like hitting your wife or your daughter or something. Exactly, yeah.
でもね、
She's still like caving into this shit.
子供には
And the dad
弱い父親の姿を
beats
見せたく
Junko
ない
too.
からって。
And he throw a knife at Hinako.
男の人はプライドが高いから。
Pride means to a
だから
man.
って家族を傷つけていいわ
What a
けが
what
な
a
い。
bull.
ひな子はきっと家に入ると女は
Even her
男に
mom is like
虐げられる
bullshitting here.
って
She complained to
そう
her
思い
other
込んじゃってるん
friend
だろ
who
う
found the
ね。
letter.
でもね、あんたが思ってるほど女もお母さんも弱くはないんだよ。お父さんなんて娘の前ではかっこつけて威張ってるけど、あんたたちがいない時は全然違うんだから。以前お母さんとお父さん大喧嘩したことがあるの。
知らない。そんなことあったの？
お母さんお父さんが謝ってくるまで徹底的に無視してやったよ。あんたたちがいる前では普通に振る舞ってたけどね。おかずも
Having one of those moments
お父さんの嫌いなものばっかりにし
getting
て
a little
お茶に雑巾の
inspiration from
絞
the
り
song.
汁入れてやったこともあるの。
お母さんが信じられない。
お父さんたったの3日で値を上げたよ。あんたと純子が寝静まった後、そこにベターっと土下座してね。
お父さんが
Bowed head to the
本当
floor.
に？
そうだよ。私とお父さんが本気で喧嘩をしたら、お父さんが私に勝てるわけないじゃない。でもね、それは私たち夫婦の話。娘の
Somehow that just makes it worse.
心配かけたのは
Well, when he gets mad and drunk whenever his daughters are around and
申し
shit,
訳ないと
beats their mom and
思っ
beats
て
them
る
and
よ。
shit. As soon as they're gone, oh, it just all sucks. Well, for once, Hanako is not like... She actually hugged her mom. She didn't like stomp her feet and yell at her and then run off.
話してくれてありがとう。お母さん。
It's not gonna be easy for the mom, and she's still a victim of abuse, but she did have the nuts to tell her that. Tell her everything. Dude, I haven't been reading these. So this page will be from the last run through. My mom smiled through tears of joy when Junko got married. Was she really so happy to be sending her daughter off to suffer the same fate as her? Did she raise her just to be beaten and abused by some man? What even is a bride price anyway? Why do they make a profit off of Junko getting married? Did they get more money because they taught her how to cook and sew? Well, I won't learn those things. You won't make a single yen off of me. I won't be like my mother. Not now. Not ever. These serious stories are so funny with the funny of it. You know, You're right. But I'm gonna keep it on. Why did my mother even marry him in the first place? How could anyone possibly call themselves happy, having to spend their entire life with someone like him? And the final page. Mom once told me, a husband and wife support each other for the whole of their lives in sickness and in health. You see, it took me a long time to recover after giving birth to you. I caused your father a lot of trouble with my mood swings. But no matter how much I complained, he stood by me through it all without so much as a frown. I know he may not have turned out to be much of a father to you girls, but all in all, he's been a good enough husband to me. Minus the times that he beats my ass in front of both of you. Alright, and Junko. Junko says that she's happy, but I just don't get it. Neither she nor my mom ever look happy. Then again, when I tell her about my ideas of happiness, she just says that those don't sound very happy to her at all. What matters most to my sister are results. What matters most to me is choice. Even if it's what makes my sister happy. If I can't make my own choices, then I'll be unhappy forever. But if what makes me happy doesn't give my sister the results she wants, then she will be unhappy. Though our concepts of happiness may differ, I think as sisters we can respect each other's version of it, and take comfort when we know the other has found it. Now that is a solid take, Hinako. She didn't get any new... Oh, she did! Nothing gets on my nerves more than other people trying to make decisions for me. You know what? Wait, no, this isn't new. No, it is new. Nothing gets on my nerves more than other people trying to make decisions for me. Even if what they're saying is right, it just drives me the wrong way. I'd rather make 100 mistakes of my own and follow someone else's commands. But that can make for a lonely life, one where I refuse to listen to anyone else. I want to become the kind of person who truly listens to what others have to say. Of course, it'll still be up to me whom I listen to. And that will be someone I can trust, someone who will walk alongside me, hand in hand. However, making long lists of things I hate is just a way of running away from the real issues I have with my inner self. I have to step up and face what's inside of me, even if I don't like what I see. Being able to take my time and carefully think things through before making a decision is what's most important to me. But at least now she knows that change is coming for her. Perhaps she just wants... She wants me to just take a moment to think and reflect. Letter from my uncle, Kanta. I shall be brief and to the point. It is very unfortunate about Kimie. I'm sorry. And I understand why you would want her to go ahead with the surgery. This is about Mom. Mom is sick, so... But surgery can do more harm than good. Remember how Mother never properly recovered after hers. I understand how you feel. I really do. But please reconsider before taking on debt for an operation that might not even make her better. Oh, Jesus. Wouldn't Kimie rather you try to enjoy the time you have left together? Either way, you need to talk it out with Kimie first. Knowing you, you probably haven't said a word of this to her yet, have you? I can't cover the whole operation, but I'll send what little I have to spare. Buy Kimie something nice with it. Got it? Shotaro. So Mama has a life-threatening illness. Dad had a failed restaurant. Mom's gonna die. She's terminally ill. And the dad got swindled out of his money by that scammer on the fishing boat. Man, he can't do shit right, can't he? Everything just gets fucked up when he's involved. Where you stupid dog. Ow. Sick of this shit. I'm taking it out on you. Bad dog. Okay. This is the last point. So. White and Black fought, battling upon a set of scales. Yet neither wanted for the scales, for that what they desired was simply a quiet, gray place where they could belong together. I'm assuming White and Black is Hinako here. Whether we flee or spread our wings and fly is our decision alone. What to make, only once we are ready. They had no use for those who towered from the heavens, imposing their will on others. Okay, so scales on the bottom. Blackbird. Whitebird. Nothing. No? Okay, black and white bird might be switched. Maybe not, okay. When Black fought, battling upon a set of scales. Neither one wanted for the scales, what they desired was a simple, great place where they could belong together. Whether we flee or spread our wings and fly is our decision alone, one to make only once we are ready. They no use for those tired from the heavens imposing their will on others. The fox, maybe up top? No. No, okay. Okay, this is gonna get kind of annoying because, to me, the white and blackbird, their position shouldn't matter here, but might. Just might. Oh, come on. There'd be no fox. Right? No sword either. Seriously? White and black fought, battling upon a set of scales. Neither wanted for the scales, for what they desire was a simple, quiet place so they could belong together. Maybe the scales is blank. Although we flee or spread our wings, flies, our decision alone one will only make once we are ready. They had no use for those tired from the heavens imposing their will on others. They don't want the scales. What about this? There we go.
でも何の話だろう。
Pine tree. And a flashback, huh?
ひなこ、
Oh, it's the dad!
少しいいか。
なんかよ。
お前に謝っておこうと思ってな。
何を。
俺は情けない父親
Oh, he's putting his head down to the ground for her, too.
長い間怒鳴ったり怖がらせたりして悪かった。
今頃謝ってなかったことになんかなるわけないでしょ。あれだけ長いことみんなに迷惑かけて。
Oh shit.
全部チャラになるなんて本気で思ってるの？
思ってない。お前の気持ちを考えれば到底許せるわけもない。それを重々分かってる。それでも俺に謝らせてくれ。許してくれなくて構わないから。
はあ、あんた一人がスッキリしたいからってだけで勝手に謝ってるの？迷惑だよ。帰ってよ。今だって急に怒り出して包丁を投げつけてこないか怖くて怖くてたまら
She
ない
did call him out on his shit.
子供に怖がられるくらいが威厳のある父親だと誤解して
A
いたの
proper father should be feared by his children.
すまない。
Good God, man.
じゃあ勝手にこれからもそうしててよ。出てって出てってよ。それでもお父さんは謝ってくれてる。許す許さないは私たちの勝手だけど、お父さんの謝りたいっていう気持ちまでも無限にはできないよ。お父さんの都合なんか知らないよ。家族だよ。それでもお母さんに聞いたでしょ。お父さんが裏切られて辛い目にあったって。辛い理由があったから乱暴も許せっていうの？そんなのまかり通らない。そう、まかり通らない。許す必要もない。縁を切り言い訳も謝罪も聞いてやる義理は確かにない。でもね、家族の縁は切れないんだよ。だから許さなくてもいいけれど聞いてあげなくちゃ。お父さんの気持ちだけは受け止めてあげて。お母さんはお父さんを許しているのかもしれないけど私には無理。知ってる？ 私たちとお父さんは血がつながっているけど、お父さんとお母さんは血なんかつながってないんだよ。結婚したってだけの赤の他人のお母さんがお父さんの話を聞いて許せたんだよ。どうして血のつながりのある私たちが話も聞いてあげられないの？怖かったと思う。今も怖いと思う。許せないと思うし、顔も見たくない気持ちもわかる。それでも話だけは聞いてあげて。許さなくてもいいから、お父さんの気持ちだけは受け止めてあげて。
もし俺のせいで男というものに恐怖を覚えているなら、それは誤解だ。俺はろくでなしだが、他の父親たちは違う。俺とは正反対で、琴行君は立派な青年だ。彼なら絶対にお前を
He's also possessed by a fox god, but that's beside the point.
付き合うからな。柊君、立派な
Oh,
男
he's
だ。
recommending Shu.
あいつならお前をやれると。
Shu is also drugging the shit out of her on purpose, but that's beside the
そん
point.
なのは俺の勝手な決めつけで、結婚するもしないもお前が自分で決めて構わない。
He's giving her the choice not to get married?
俺を許さなくていいから、俺の呪縛から解放されて幸せに生きてくれ。今まですまなかった。
今でも怖いし、許せるかどうかわからないけど、お父
As is
さ
her
んの
right.
気持ちだけは受け取ったから。
Well then. Get a new entry. After Dad saved up enough money from fishing, he decided to start up a restaurant with his longtime friend, somebody who was like a little brother to him. So it was the restaurant that he swindled him for the money. That friend, however, stabbed him in the back, and ran off with all his money, leaving him with nothing but debt. Apparently, that's when things really started heading south for my dad. I mean, I do sympathize with him, but his past is his problem, not mine. And it definitely doesn't excuse him for making every day a living hell for me. When it's just him and my mom, he apologizes for the life of poverty he's forced us into due to his debts. According to Mom, there is nothing more shameful in this world to a father than letting his daughters see his weak side. If he acts the way he does to me, just to hide something as dumb as that, then I think I might just go crazy right now. This house is theirs. It has nothing to do with me. I was just born here. I may be Hinako, the little bird, but I have wings of my own. And if he doesn't care about how I want to live my life, then I'll just spread my wings and fly away. Wherever I choose to go will be entirely up to me. This man is horrible. This man is absolutely terrible. No wonder Hinako has all these issues. Jesus, man. Do I still have to fight the parents? Oh, no, not again! Ew. Is that a note? No, it's
本
not.
当に私の家なの？
Wait, doggy. I'm done with this area. There we go. Aren't you yellow? And the final stretch.
お腹まで。
Minako is a lot more mature in the true ending. I can sell this. What's this? Heal up. Oh, that's a toolkit. I want that. No. Is that a note? No, okay. Just background props. That, no. Gosh, she's nice. Alright. Is there a parents fight here? There is not. Okay, this is a new cutscene, and we're gonna watch it in 5 FPS. Friends are dead. Dead to her, I suppose. Right. It seems like whenever there's mention of Hinako being dead or someone dying, it has to go. It all comes back to her funeral, or sorry, funeral. Her wedding. Sorry, goes back to her wedding. Little buddy tale. うん。That looks delicious.
Hinako, 遅かったな。今から始めるところだったぞ。誰のなんだと。 それではご一同様包丁の鞘をどうぞご覧くださいよなんでその言い草は
Okay, I think the flashbacks are over there, but I don't quite remember. Because I haven't actually watched this cutscene in like 3 runs. It's the first initial run. We're still fighting. Alright. Oh, I hit her, okay. It still counts as 3. I'm gonna whiff that, yeah, okay. Daddy-O is a lot more aggro in this fucking one. One more. Gotcha. There's my accent. lightsaber. She's dead. Alright, Daniel's turn. Not even. Okay. I fucked that up. Come here. Repair this. Oops. Let's go with this. There we go. Okay, this is not new. Eaten by the fog monster. Now we gotta chase it down. Oh no, there's a nightmare sequence first. I gotta do the fox puzzles. Okay, at least I know which way I'm supposed to go this time, so. Yeah, I'll be able to squeeze this in. Okay. Okay, what does the puzzle say now? Two chicks confide in one another in their shells. A fox watches over them in the light of his lantern. Nobody knows when, or even if, the eggs will hatch. Not even the chicks themselves.
なんだか賑やかな絵。立派な方々。
Okay. Now, you'll do get a cheat fox here. Yep, okay. Point the direction. Shit, this is... Okay. We're out of stamina. Come here. There we go. Okay, there's one in here, right? Oh no, this isn't the room with the walls. No new documents. One birdie. This. Melt this. There we go. Okay. I'll just hold on to it. I think you have to go this way next.
宴は終わりましたでしょうか。
This way, I think. Ah, foxes, okay. No cheat fox, so I might... It's always the one they're not looking at. Which is... It's a cheat fox? No. Okay, it might be this one. Nice, perfect. Okay. Scratch his butt. Get my butt scratched. Get my face scratched. Oh, I'll get my leg scratched. Enough! Okay. Whew. They get indestructible. There's one in here. Oh, yeah, there she is. Alright. So items, just money. Money's always nice. Okay, that's 2. What's the exit? Oh, it's over here. And now 3. Oh, I can sell at least. Sell. Okay. Scroll of Discipline. With our blood shall our clan prosper. May our ancestors rejoice.
私はお前たちの小屋しか
My
何
sword
かな
of
の
which you
か
can sow your oats. Damn.
バカにするな
There really is just a maze at the end for this fucking... This damn Fox clan. There we go, cheap Fox. Scroll of Discipline. Come close. Women must submit to men. Kodayuki is still but a fledgling. Come, and we shall treat you as we see fit. Look into my eyes.
やめ
Yamate. Yamate. Back in my room. And a pregnancy monster. Come here, Sally. Oh, that cancels my attack! Oh, he's beat me! Actually, blocked all of his attacks, nice. I don't know how that works, I think it might be RNG. Sometimes you don't take damage when you get grabbed, and I don't quite know why. Yeah, you went fucking damage. This to die. I want this to die. There we go. Okay, this has died. Oh, this other bullshit's gonna die next. Here we go. Let's get some souls. Is there another thing? Or is that it? Oh, I think that's it. Okay. This is not new.
あなた様の
Okay, now we can solve this puzzle. So, it says... Two chicks confide in one another in their shells. A fox watches over them in the light of his lantern. Nobody knows when or even if the eggs will hatch, not even the chicks themselves. In their shells, huh? Okay, so my little brain tells me this time it's gonna be one of these. And these. The fox watching them is this one. Maybe not. Okay, the annoying part is figuring out where the birds go. That's the annoying part. Okay, that's not the answer. My little brain has failed me. Fox watches over them with his lantern. Alright. The chicks come in and Fox watches over them with his lantern. Can I not pull this out? So. It could be these three. Aha! Perfect. My little brain was right the second time. That's what I get for dumping in. Okay, this is not new. Oh, we have a few gauntlets left. This is new. Probably a dialogue change. Maybe not. No, this is... Okay, it probably is a dialogue change. It's where the parents were killed. Actress don't miss. I actually do have to look up to see who her actress is. And see what other stuff she's done. She's very good at her craft. Let's see if I can this. Ow. Didn't count. Yes, you're right. It's time. Attack up. Oh, not the flowers. I hate these fucking flowers. If there's one thing I hate, it's the flowers. So the dog left and then he turned back around. That's good. Someone's getting a shock collar later. That's really dark. I should have said that. Come here. I need to get closer to this side. The blueberry got me, okay. Nice, there's belly rub the other way of the spit. Excellent. Okay, no toolkits. No knife either. I remembered that thing.
選択は
Okay.
幸せは
Money.
自ら選ぶ私が
Assert yourself, Hinako.
私の世界を全部壊し
We'll
て
get through this yet.
どこまでもてあそぶ気誰の仕業だ絶対に報いを受けさせてやるどっちに向かった何があるんだ
We have to make him feel the burn for his transgressions against our four-legged friends. You're not wrong. I have a dog. I have one dog. He is a Chihuahua. And for all intents and purposes, he is ancient. My Chihuahua, in 2 weeks will turn 18 years old. He is very, very old. Very old. Very blind. Very deaf. Deaf. Come here. Come here. There we go. I got one more hit in this thing. Oh, fuck. I thought that would kill him, but I guess not. It was the old-fashioned way. There we go. She's dead. I'm a bitch. No items, man. There is like no toolkits anywhere. There's a knife up here though, I'm pretty
転
sure.
職が進んでる早く行かないと
Bandage, always nice.
お前たちが何をしようと
I thought there was a knife up here.
そんなまやかし
I
は
suppose I just have some wishful thinking going on. Where's that fucking knife? There is a knife somewhere. I know there is.
私の心を乱そうとしても無駄だそうか
There it is.
全てはあ
Okay.
そこから始まった
Bad dog.
お前たちにこれ以上踊らされない私の生き方は私が選ぶ
Okay, I'm gonna eat it. Gosh, this. Bitch. There's a sickle. Where the fuck is it? Hi. Is there another sickle? No, I guess not. Okay. I'll have to use my secret sword soon. A 16-year-old Chihuahua. Damn. Cost a long time with that. 5-month-old Beagle Quarter. Ah, man, Beagle Quarter, blah 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 blah. Beagle Border Collie mix. Used to have two different beagles. The dogs in my life never heard of anyone talk to dogs so heartlessly as he does. Makes you sit there all day, a scumbag. Hey, you're right. You're absolutely right. I've had dogs all my life as well. Well, most of my life anyway. I had my first dog when I was like 8. Did not ask for a better friend. He was a Cocker Spaniel Poodle mix. The dog was too smart for his own damn good sometimes. This is new. And I've had 2 other Chihuahuas. They're at the very ripe old ages. And this current, my current my last Chihuahua
私た
is
ちは
also
どこまで
he has far outlived every
お
other
もちゃ
dog
に
I've
され
ever
なきゃ
owned.
ならないんだ。私の
I
怒り
couldn't
と
imagine treating
悲
any
し
of
み
them
を引き継いでくれ。
like a prop or an ornament. It's a bit fucked if you ask me.
これがあなたの生き様なの？
お姉ちゃんから見たらきっとバカな女に見えると思う。私は家畜の餌のように与えられる幸せよりも這いずり回ってでも自分の力で得られるものを幸せと思う生き方をしたい。
後悔はしませんね。その選択の結果を決して誰のせいにもしないと誓いますね。
それ私たち清水ひな子の選択。運命は私たちが自ら私たちが十分に悩み抜いて納得してから選ぶ。お前たちのおもちゃにはもうならないぞ。
Crunch. Crunchy Hinako. Okay, this is not new.
あらあら本
あらあら。
かように貧弱な嫁ごとは。
どうか心安らかな日々を。
This is not new. This is not new. Alright.
街が綺麗。
Play with me forever. So it's in the true ending that this doll, that you can't trust this doll anymore, especially after seeing the bad ending, the marriage ending. The doll is a tool that was thrown away. The old god is the god of tools that have outlived their usefulness. They're no longer used. This doll is the other god, the old god, in disguise, in a way that is
しないで。
pleasing and comforting to Hinako. Can't trust this shit. Can't trust anybody. 12 have long lifespans, no, to 20 years in some cases, yeah. If you go play it to 15%, probably now with the 3-way on us. We thought it was our 3 campaigns. To abuse that same relationship is a great sin, for lack of a better term. It's an excellent way of looking at it, though. With thick and thin, our little canine friends show a kind of loyalty that you just can't. I mean, you can find it in people, but oh, I didn't read what this doll said. Oh well. 5, 6, 7 minutes. Son of a bitch. Thick and thin, all they know is you. Your family. Girls may be around. When you're gone from the house, I'm sure all they think about is you when you'll come back. Like a fucking SpongeBob meme. Where he's talking to Patrick, he's like, what do you do when I'm normally gone? He's like, wait for you to come back. Hi. Okay. deserve that hit. I don't want this. I know on some of my worst days growing up, I always had the dogs to comfort you, you know? They didn't ask questions or make any judgments about you. Well, I mean, they're dogs, right? But I mean, philosophically, they didn't make any judgments against you or anything. They just sat with you. They knew something's wrong. They know something's wrong. They just sit with you until you're feeling a little better and back on your own 2 feet. Very, very few people will do that for someone. Especially without asking for anything in return. No, I don't want to save. One more fight. One more fight out here. If you dare submit to the foxes, I shall curse you. Bring it on, bitch. Siphon. These dolls then. I wonder if the dolls are made by the other god. Especially in the spirit world. Specifically the spirit world dolls. Actually, they're good. There they are. Me, once when I have a dog, I have this compulsion to help it live as long as it can, a long and healthy life. And the worst part of owning a dog is they don't live as long as we do. They don't have human lifespans. Normally that'd be something very sad to go on, but at the same time, to me, it seems like it would do see them out proper. As you would anyone. Oh, I should scratch him again with the charge attack. Gotcha. There we go. Alright. I wonder if I have to fight the Tsukumagami again in the true ending. I wonder if the fox has a better role in this. Who does it possess if it doesn't possess Shu, though? Because the other ending was about Shu getting friend-zoned, and then he freaks out and becomes a vessel for the other god. So who does it possess this time? We'll just skip. Maybe it has a true form. We'll just skip. Okay, that one's not new. This is the final gauntlet. I am not having a lot of weapons. My sacred sword does not regenerate itself. My lightsaber is almost out. I have a crowbar. We're gonna Gordon Freeman this. Is there any? The doll shows up at the end too. The doll gives you a bunch of shit at the end, but the doll is possessed, so I wonder what happens.
しめ縄が絡まって私の生き様みたい。今はとにかく進むんだ。諦めるものか。
Saying goes, when you get a dog, you buy a ticket to the worst day of your life. Ain't that the truth? We always have room to go, and always be another good boy or girl. He says, loving home and fill that void. That's right. Always get another dog. Not to treat them as objects, but there's no lack of dogs in this world.
あなたは誰？ どうして私を
Just visit
操
any
ろうとし
any
ていたの？
shelter. She doesn't like the doll anymore. She always thanks the dog. Or the dog. What the fuck? My brain's getting muddled. She always thanks the doll at the end of these runs. Now she hates the doll.
通さないつもりか？上等だ。
Oh, damn. That's slick. I'm reminded of the first, I think it was the, shit, what was that? Fucking, that's that dinosaur movie from way back. Land Before Time. When, Littlefoot's mom dies. Very sad, of course. But then he meets, that really old dinosaur who's, like, sleeping. He starts crying and he says, my mom's gone. And the old dinosaur says, he says, the great circle of life has begun to spin. We don't always make it to the end at the same time. It always stuck with me, even as a kid. Because a nice way to conceptualize death for a kid. Here we go. And it helped. Ah, motherfucker! No! Ah! Nasty. Now he's powered up. Come here. Hype beast. He's gonna do it again. I am just fucking up this bullshit. More heavy attacks. There we go. Stay. This sucks. I'm just gonna cover this shit. There we go. Alright. Bandage, no. But there's a toolkit here. Okay. Yes. I don't want the tea. Okay, item dump.
もう後戻りはできない。
Oh, divine water is nice for sanity. Oh, I should sell first. And aha. Sanity is definitely the endgame stat. But still gives you stuff, okay? Shrine. Take some money. Okay. And there we go. You now have more sanity. Okay. I need to be careful with my toolkits. I think I get a few more weapons out here. It's a very good line. I think no matter what you believe, even I was lost in some form or another, at least I hope. Maybe both. All I can do is hope. I'm sorry on the atheistic belief of death being a void of non-existence. Yeah. Kitchen knife, perfect. First aid kit. Okay, I haven't done this in a while, but I'm gonna go over my assets. Let's see. 13 bandages. I have no shortage of heals. 4 med kits. Going to this here. For sanity, toolkit's equipped, Yokan's equipped, Higashi's equipped. Okay. Perfect. All right. The final save and the finale is upon us. I think it's also, it's the unknown of the end that also, I don't know, should just be is the best way I can put it. Just be, just live. Live each day. It doesn't have to be like it's your last day, because who can say at any given point in time, this is not a new cutscene. Skip this. But with your allotted time here, it is important to experience things as much as you can. This is new, okay. Like if you asked me 2 years ago if I was gonna stream on Twitch as a PNG YouTuber, I think you're out of your goddamn mind. But here we are. Here I am.
おもちゃにされているの。
どういうこと？
私を嫁がせたい何者かと、それを妨害したい何者か
Not
が。
to say anything wrong with streamers on Twitch, but I wouldn't have said I see myself doing such a thing.
そんなことって。
I don't really like, or I didn't used
苦しい
to
戦いだったけれど、私はようやくそれに気づけ
spend
た
a
の。
lot of time on like social media stuff. Never.
人に望まぬ選択を強いること、それをせかすこと。私たちはそれと戦わなくちゃいけないって気づけたから。
Blue sky and all that stuff. Damn, Junko has nothing to say to her. Even Junko was caught aback. She's like, you ain't wrong.
ごめんね、お父さん、お母さん。私、やっぱり親不孝者だと思う。でも、本当に私の幸せを願っていてくれるなら、この暴挙をどうか許して。
So Junko's actually gonna watch her destroy the shit. The altar.
私の選択。
Usually Junko gets disposed of at some point before this.
私たちをもてあそぶ者たちへの抗議。
That's good. You're a pretty good streamer. I know you do good. The only reason you're not big right now is because saturated Twitch. It is pretty saturated, and I thank you for that because they're very kind words. They do mean a lot. Trust me. Believe me when I say that. But I always appreciate the viewership. Salamandius. Always, always. And the conversation. The conversation is... I like the conversation as well. I can't say I have any, you know... huge ambitious goals for Twitch, but I do enjoy doing this, even just as a creative outlet. It's very cathartic for me.
殺し合うしか対話ができないの。
What the fuck is happening here? Are they gonna merge? Fusion? Fusion! I don't remember that stance in the fusion dance. Oh shit, the gods are fighting!
など忘れておったわ。ガラクタどもの長よ。
Oh shit, I didn't mean to pause, I'm sorry. Yes! The Guardian's curse. It's Halloween time. Let's buff up our spirits.
Kotoyuki-san!
まれに人里に真意を宿した希少な血を持つ女子が生まれることがあ
Oh,
る。
his
こ
true
のよう
form.
なものが里に現れるたびに我らは一族の跡取りに
So even Kotoyuki is
その
possessed,
も
like...
のを嫁に欲するようまじないをかけた。
completely not only against his will. Both of these people are doing things against their will, or being forced into this position. My power is greater than they. Generation Taylor is a fool!
人間の娘一人たぶらかせぬようでは未熟が過ぎる。
とゆきさんはずっと私をお嫁さんにしたい一心でずっとずっと努力してきたって孤独にずっと笑うな
The fox, he's like, huh?
悩んで生きてきたことゆきさんを笑うな
Dare insult the fox god? Fucking right it there. Let's kick his ass. Defeat the gods! This is Silent Hill. This is a Silent Hill. A Silent Hill true right. I bet I gotta fight Bob.
私も同じくらい一生懸命考えなくちゃならないって思ったの。
Oh, phase change. All the Hanakos are... They're switching?
いつかお父さんみたいになるかもしれないって。
This is so sick. This is cool. They go into like reflections and they're all the same shit.
私
Come
の
here.
悩みを笑っていいのは未来の自分だけだ。
Oh, the dolls is core. Okay. He does stay possession. Stay
彼の思い
in
に応え
possession
る
of
こ
the
とで
doll.
私の人生は何を
It's
得
a
られ
lot more difficult now, huh?
る？何を失う？何が変わって何が生まれる？
Come here.
女の幸せは男に愛されること。そんな魔法の言葉で私の悩みは解決しない。
This guy's definitely more difficult. The fox. Okay. Oh, motherfucker. Nice. Base. Back to fox. Oh, yeah. Alright. Come here. Come here, doggy. Oh, that's how he does this shit. Carry doll. One. Ah! That was her to scream, not me. You got very difficult on this. Oh, run away. Come here. Sit still. Sit. Bastard boy. Okay. Now you've done it. Ear scratches. Have courage, Nato. Maybe dodge a little. We'll see the end of this. Uh-oh. Nice. Does this have a heavy attack? It does. I did not realize. Yeah, you just dodged this shit. Okay, give me here. Couldn't dodge that either. Here we go. Nice. Phase? Phase. Phase 3. Bastards! Very long and drawn out fight. Unfortunately, share heals and shit, so. Okay. I have no sanity. No, I want to drink, please. Let me sit, sit. There we go. Pull trigger. I'm right with that. Okay. Gotcha. I'm gonna scratch your butt. Come here. Oh, fuck. Last. She's got 100 gold. Really? Well, she doesn't barely. She has been giving or getting punishment. I see, those are mines! You step on them, they go off. I thought they were like timed things I would dodge. Hold still, hold still, hold still. There we go. Nice. Box down. Oh boy. Okay. This could suck. Dodge this, so careful. Nice! I was careful. And I dodged that, nice. Come here. Stupid god. My secret sword's about to break. Gosh. I guess that's not right. got something special for you, buddy. Got my little dinky knife. Oh, back in. Frick. Nice. Oh, I couldn't dodge that one. Oh well. Let's kill this asshole. Show this prehistoric bitch how they do things in Ebi Sagawa. It sucks he doesn't have anything I deflect. For more! Favorite style. Gotcha! Oh, the doll.
ごめんね。必ず供養するからね。
大丈夫か二人とも。ほらあっちだ。早く。ほら。本当にすまない。久しぶりの祝言に酒が過ぎたのだろう。普段は大穴
He's had much to drink. Don't worry, my dad's a drunk too.
この場は私が何とかしておく。
Cute, Kodayuki.
一緒に。
Real fucking cute.
すまなかった。私は君に全てを与えたつもりで、君が一番欲していたものに気づけなかった。私も君と同じものが欲しくなったのだ。君への愛は酔狂なまじないによって生み出されたものではないと。
I think the Fox God is a bit mad.
もし私たちへの愛が本物だったなら、また会いましょう。私たちもしっかり悩んで答えを用意しておきます。
She does like him. He must be really happy having two Hinakas. Is it flooded? Or are those rooftops? No, it's okay, those are rooftops. No, is it flooded? I can't tell. Before I say that was abrupt, there's absolutely going to be an after credits scene. They're not gonna leave us hanging. This song is cool though. Yeah, let's see what this credit scene is. Letter from Kodayuki. The days have grown warmer where I am. What is it like in Ebisugaoka? I can still recall the startling beauty of dandelions peeking out through cracks in stone walls. I would like to express my appreciation for the letter you sent me. It was quite enlightening. I will follow in your footsteps and start by simply trying to enjoy life. As per your recommendation, I purchased sauce-flavored senbei for the first time just the other day. It must have been quite a sight to see, a man dressed in a suit buying cheap rice crackers and eating them with children outside the candy store. The children laughed when they saw me, saying the real grown-ups don't buy such cheap snacks. And so I explained to them how I wasn't able to eat many treats as a child, which is why I'm eating them now. I know exactly that feeling that this guy's talking about. When they heard that, they began swarming around me and telling me all the different delicious ways you can eat sauce-flavored senbei. Though I must say I was taken aback when a child suggested if I try putting strawberry jam on it. Imagine such a scene, a full-grown man eating snacks with children. While I was rather embarrassed, I felt like I had regained part of my lost childhood. I intend to become reacquainted with my inner child, discover my own dreams, and live life to the fullest. And once I have done so, I hope to reevaluate my feelings for you. Not under the influence of magic spells and cults, fox cults, and shit like that.
私たちの人生どんな風に生きようね。琴雪さんみたいに生きてみたい。誰かをものすごく好きになって、その人のためにものすごく努力して、情熱のすべてを注ぎ込むような一途で一生懸命な生き方をしてみたい。今度は私から琴雪さんに求婚するくらいの勢いで
she's gonna propose to
一生
him.
懸命に。
Talking about flipping the roles around, gender roles. They're embarrassed about eating sides because we won't marry one. Interesting logic there.
まだ決まってないけど、とにかく何かに一生懸命に。
He's like, you gotta understand. She dresses like a schoolgirl.
ここは静かだね。
Okay, it's not flooded.
誰も邪魔しない。せかさ
But
ない
it was mentioned that there's
いるのは
gas. There's natural gas geysers in this area, so
私たちだけで行く末を決められる。
and without the fox god. The fox god was what was holding them back, but with him out of the picture now, I'm assuming the town has been evacuated.
こんな静かな恵比寿ヶ丘は初めてかも。ここは私たちだけの静寂の恵比寿ヶ丘
Silent Ebisuga.
だね。
Inside you are two Hinakos. One is insane, the other is insane. Oh, it is flooded. No, it is flooded. No, it's not flooded. It's just the river. The bell. Oh, that's Junko's bell. It truly was a quiet mound. Truly, they were a Silent Hill F Deluxe Edition, now available on Steam and PS5 and Xbox Series X. Or I never get the Xbox models right. I don't know what they're on. Well then, at least Hinako found the peace that she so desired, and independence, and ability to think on her own without someone else trying to force her into things. I'm sure she loved Kodayuki, she just did not like the fact that her dad was selling her, essentially, for a very huge dowry. A transaction being made. But Kodayuki is a victim as well. He's being forced into marrying her because some about her blood. I remember reading that document about the blood type being different and unique for their, I guess their mutation. I didn't like. I don't think I found any documents that expanded on that. Something bad to the clan. They don't like that their blood is different or something like that. But every once in a while, there's a girl that's born with that mutation in her blood that's compatible with her. So Kodayuki is also the first of this. Honestly, Shu, like, purposely drugging her so she wouldn't get married is pretty fucked. I was rooting for Shu early on, too. For like the first, like, 2 or 3 playthroughs, I was like, Shu is the guy. But after seeing that last cutscene, fuck no. No, fuck Shu. He's fucking weird. He's drugging the shit out of this girl. All these kids, victims of the roles that are forced upon them. Maybe not Sakuko, but she's kind of weird here. She had the mild autism diagnosis. You must marry her because she has good blood, right? I mean, they like casting spells and shit on him too, so he's not in his right mind. None of them are in their right goddamn minds. Actually, those gas leaks are actually happening. I'm sure they're all fucked up in some way or another. Proper ending, but a nice guitar solo. But I see why this is the true ending. Hinako and Kodayuki breaking free from their respective curses and spells and magic and whatnot. No longer being the playthings of 2 enemy gods. Smoke crack. That's right. They're gonna smoke crack now in the town for the rest of their lives, but of their own free will. It's different. So good. Oh, okay. Display, I want to hear this. Oh, yeah. That's the good stuff. Not made specifically, I mean, like, programs. I'm sure if I fill it with enough, I can make something sound similar. Randoville animation. Linking support. This is Unreal Engine. I wasn't sure. It runs better than most games in Unreal 5. I'm assuming it's Unreal Engine 5. With exceptions where they would like start chucking frames and doing that weird quarter shit where it got really blurry all of a sudden. Nice. Now then, what does the thing say? What does the menu look like now? Everything's been cleared, right? Ah, look at that. Everyone in the town is either dead or gone. It's just Hinako now, waiting on her Prince Kodayuki to come sweep her away. Hey, what is this called? Maybe Sugaka in silence. We need to talk about our future. She can commit to considering her future now, with nobody else. There's literally nobody else to sway her one way or another. She got exactly what she wanted. It's just her in silence with some time to think. This ending here, the first one, fucked me up. Like I was just like in so much shock, but it made me want to play the game more. The Fox's wedding, I can see why it's the bad ending. He learned Shu's secret about his drugs. He knew exactly what he was doing to her. And neither the Fox or Shu really give that much of a shit about her. She's just a thing to obtain. The Fox wants its tit. This was an okay ending. The Fox gives her up. He gets cleansed of whatever's corrupting him, and then she leaves with Shu into the abandoned Ebisugaoka. It's the Fox specifically. The guy, Fox Mask himself, was being manipulated. He had like spells and shit thrown on him by his cult that he came from. This is the true ending. He's a victim, not so different from Hinako herself. Both of them being forced into these things just because they were born the way they are. Well, she also has some weird special blood shit going on. They didn't really expand on that though. Some kind of mutation afflicting their clan. And only her blood would mix with them, so. But now they're both free from their respective curses. Now they're both free to consider the following. Wasn't Shu possessed too? He was, but I think because at the end of that, or at that ending, the black cloud came out of Hinako and the doll, right? Because the fox god is like you were holding that in so long and you resisted it all this time, incredible. And then when he dispersed it, that's when Shu started he started emanating that fog. So I'm actually not sure if he was possessed before that or if that was the point that he got possessed when he got exorcised out of her. Still. Drugging someone is still kind of fucked up, especially with hallucinogens. But yeah, that was, this game is really fucking good, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked it enough to play through it, what, 3 or 4 times? I mean, I saved Scum, right? But it still counts, as far as I'm concerned. Hours, 4 minutes, 55 seconds. 20 hours, 12 minutes, 34 seconds. I don't quite know these playtime. The playtime is really inconsistent in this game. I don't know what it says for. Let me check my my Steam real fast. What does it say? I'm at 30 hours. 30 hours playtime. And I didn't really AFK all that much in this game, so it'll be actual gameplay. Can now close this game down, never to open it again. Not on stream anyway. Well, who could say? Who can say? I definitely got my money's worth out of that. I really liked that game. 6.1% of players have the true ending achievement. Yeah, that's sounds about right. I highly doubt everybody's gonna try and go for the true ending, much less all the endings. I had quite a good time playing that. What's something more pleasant with that good ending, as opposed to my my scary song? I'll play my soothing song, because peace has been found for Hinako. So that is what I'm going to call the end of this stream. I appreciate you guys coming to tune in and give me some conversation to bounce off of. Always appreciate the viewership. That's the end of Silent Hill F. I'm gonna stream again tomorrow. We're gonna play more Corpse Party tomorrow. And the day after, I'm gonna check out House of Necrosis for a little bit. Indie game. Indie horror game. Well, it's not super scary, but it's got the aesthetic. You too, Salamanders. Have a good one. You have yourself a good night and a good day tomorrow. And to everyone else, Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I will be back in a day. Back tomorrow night. Stream some more. So as always, Wanderers, take care and farewell. Let me get my spooky head. Take care.